Good morning, all. Last week, we treated chapter 1 with the title Meaning, Nature, and Scope of History. In that chapter 1, we looked at the different meanings of history. We also looked at the sub branches of history, and we identified about 12 sub branches of history, which included military history, political history, social history, religious history, environmental history, urban history, and the rest. We also looked at the sources of studying Nigerian history. We also looked at the aims and objective of studying Nigerian history. Today, we are going to look at chapter 2 with the title The Land and People of Nigeria. Remember, and in the introductory class, I told you the title of this course, that the title is Nigerian History. Therefore, everything we are going to study in this semester's course is all about Nigeria. Today, chapter 2 is the land and the people of Nigeria. In this chapter, we shall discuss the features of the country's environment, its impact on the history, the different geographical zones which different group of people in Nigeria inhabit, and the features of the various ethnic groups or nationalities in different geographical zones. We quickly look at the objective of today's study. And we say that at the end of today's lecture, our students will be able to know the features of the country's environment, the population and the people of Nigeria, the impact of geography upon its history, the effects of the Sahara and the Atlantic Ocean in the development of Nigeria, the pre-colonial intergroup relations among the early Nigerian people, and lastly, we shall also look at the cultural and tourism potentials of Nigeria. What are we to know about Nigeria? Since today's title is The Land and People of Nigeria, let's look at the slide and see some of the things we are going to see or study in today's lecture. And we say that historically, the name Nigeria was taken from the Niger River running through the country. The name was coined on 8 January 1897 by the British journalist Flora Shaw, who later married Lord Lugard, a British colonial administrator in Nigeria. The neighboring Republic of Niger takes its name from the same river. Officially known as the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Nigeria is the most populous country in Africa and the world's seventh most populous country. Nigeria is widely recognized as the giant of Africa. Its greatness is attributed to its huge territory, endowment of natural resources, and energetic population. Nigeria's most diverse feature is its people. Hundreds of languages are spoken in the country. The three largest ethnic groups are the Hausa in the north, the Yoruba in the west, and the Igbo in the east. The national capital is Abuja, the Federal Capital Territory, which was created by the military decree in 1976. Lagos, the former capital of Nigeria, retains its standing as the country's leading commercial and industrial city. Modern Nigeria dates from 1914, when the British protectorate of northern and southern Nigeria were joined together. The country became independent on October 1st, 1960, and in 1963 adopted a republican constitution, but elected to stay a member of the Commonwealth. Nigeria is a federal republic comprising 36 states and the Federal Capital Territory, where the capital, Abuja, is located. The states are further subdivided into 774 local government areas. Again, the states are aggregated into 6 geopolitical zones: northwest, northeast, north central, southwest, southeast, and south south. We now look at the region, the vegetation, and the population of Nigeria. And we said here that the country is located in West African subcontinent. It covers an area of 923,769 square kilometers, with a population estimated, according to the United Nations 2021 projection, to be 213,461,323 people. Nigeria lies between latitude 4 degrees and 14 degrees north, entirely in the tropical zone, and occupies a position where the western part of the African continent meets the equatorial Africa. The country's land area stretches from the Gulf of Guinea in the south to the Sahara Desert in the north. It is bounded in the west by the Republic of Benin, in the north by the Republic of Niger, in the east by the Republic of Cameroon, and in the south by the Gulf of Guinea or Atlantic Ocean. A major geographical feature of the country is its two major rivers, namely the Niger and the Benue rivers. The Niger flows into Nigeria through the northwest and meets and merges with the Benue at the center of the country, which is also known as Lokoja, and then flows southwest. The Benue River itself enters the country from the northeastern axis, and together with Niger River and its many tributaries, empty into the Atlantic Ocean. Having seen the regions, we are now going to look at the effects of geography on the history of Nigeria. And we say that the history of any place is incomplete without a discussion on how certain geographical features like the highlands, plains, and water bodies, climate, and vegetation influence certain historical activities in these areas. In the case of Nigeria, it lies between two large external physical features, which have greatly influenced her history for centuries. These physical features are the Sahara Desert in the north and the Atlantic Ocean in the south. We look at the effects of the Sahara. We are going to look at the effects of the Sahara Desert and the Atlantic Ocean in the evolution of Nigeria. But we first look at the effect of the Sahara Desert. And we say that Sahara is the world's largest desert, about 3,500,000 squares, running from North Africa through West Africa. The Sahara Desert had a considerable influence on the history of the countries of Western Sudan, including Nigeria. The desert has been presented by some historians as a great barrier between the people of North Africa and those of West Africa. But the fact remains, however, that for centuries there have been trade relations between the North African traders and their counterparts in Western Sudan, and that this trade took place across the Sahara. Therefore, the effect of the Sahara Desert on the development of Nigeria includes: one, there was a trade relationship between the people of North Africa and West Africa, and this trade took place across the Sahara. Two, there were migrations of people between the north and the south across the Sahara. Third, Islamic religion and Arabic education entered Nigeria through the Sahara Desert. The fourth point is that marriage and cultural borrowings occurred via the Saharan route. Having looked at the effects of the Sahara Desert on the development of Nigeria, we are now going to look at the effect of the Atlantic Ocean in the historical development of Nigeria. And we said here that the Atlantic Ocean is that vast body of water that extends to 5 continents: North and South America, Europe, Africa, and Antarctica, and is the second largest after the Pacific Ocean. The effects of the Atlantic Ocean had in the evolution of Nigeria include the following. One, this Atlantic Ocean was the channel through which the Portuguese explorers and later the Portuguese traders first came into contact with Nigerians. Secondly, the early Portuguese Christian missionaries entered Benin and Warri through the Gulf of Guinea, which is the Atlantic Ocean. Thirdly, it was a channel through which Western education also entered the Nigerian area. Fourthly, the Atlantic Ocean served as the entry point of the colonial administrators in Nigeria. Having looked at the effect of the Atlantic Ocean in the development of Nigeria, we are now going to look at the subtopic titled Intergroup Relations Among Early Nigerians. Remember that the title of today's topic is The Land and People of Nigeria. We are now going to look at the intergroup relations that existed among the early Nigerians. And we said here that Nigeria, as we know it today, that is one country under one leadership, did not exist about some 100 years ago. Before that time, what is called Nigeria were various independent nation states, kingdoms, and empires that owed no allegiance to any other power but themselves. They later lost this much cherished sovereignty through various acts of omission and commission on the part of the British government, as well as the activities of the overzealous British officials and ambitious British merchants and trading companies. All these activities, which officially started with the appointment of the British Council in 1849 for the Bight of Benin and Biafra, now Bight of Bonny, and the annexation of Lagos, among many other things, which culminated in the amalgamation in 1914 of the Protectorate of Northern and Southern Nigeria into a country called Nigeria. Having seen the background of these intergroup relations, the question we now have to ask ourselves is, what is intergroup relations? And we said here that the term intergroup relations refers to both individual interactions involving members from different groups and the collective behavior of groups in interaction with other groups at either the intra or inter-organizational levels. Group relations thus imply cooperation between different states in Nigeria. This could take the form of trade, diplomatic ties, management of trade routes, boundaries, and water resources, and wars, among others. Having looked at the definition or meaning of intergroup, our next task is to look at the factors that promoted intergroup relations among the early Nigerians. And the first point we are going to make is relations promoted by trade. And here we say there were so many factors that promoted intergroup relations in Nigeria. And the first one we have identified is trade. And we say that trade was perhaps the most important factor which linked many groups in Nigeria together. The second point is there were relations promoted by trade routes, markets, and traders. And we say that trade routes, markets, and traders contributed a lot to interactions among different groups in Nigeria, thus further promoting interstate cooperation. The third one is relationship promoted by religious, social, and cultural institutions. The various groups in Nigeria were integrated by religious, political, and social institutions. In every group or in contagious states, there were many institutions which brought the people closer to one another. For instance, among the people of southern Nigeria, Ekpe society, which originated in Cross Rivers and Akwa Ibom, also had many members in different Igbo societies, especially the people referred as Cross-Riverian Igbo, Ohafia, Bende, Afikpo, Eda, Ebriba, Mkpuru, and other Cross-Riverian communities, all fell under the influence of Ekpe. So, Ekpe promoted religious and social or cultural interactions among the people. In the West, Ogboni society had great influence among the people of Yoruba, even outside Nigeria, like Benue Republic. They were people that also were members of the Ogboni society. We are also going to look at relations promoted by migration. And we say that migration was equally important in the development of Nigeria because Nigeria's history is filled with examples of migrations from one area to another, either for political, economic, or security reasons. We will look at the relations promoted by diplomacy. And we said here, in order to maintain the links existing among states and to drive the benefit of peaceful coexistence, many Nigerian states deliberately maintain diplomatic ties with one another. And we are also conversant with the intricate art of diplomacy. The last that promoted intergroup relations is relations promoted by war. We said here that war was an integral part of state relations with other states and can thus be rightly characterized as an evidence of intergroup relations. War has also been described as diplomacy by another means. The causes of war were many, but the major one was the ambition of imperial states to extend their political control over other societies. Also, many states went to war in order for each ruling class to obtain wealth by capturing slaves, extending their farmland, exerting tribute from conquered territories, having access to trade, and controlling trade routes. This is where we will end today's lecture. Next week, we shall treat chapter 3 with the title Centers of Ancient Civilization in Nigeria. Thank you.